Good evening. Welcome to the President We Want. This is Art in Heart, and my name is Likuyani Eli. What do we do when Kenya is in crisis? With raising crisis of debt to accountable of about 8.6 trillion Kenyan shillings, raising ceiling of, and Parliament went ahead to raise the ceiling of borrowing, both internal and external. And we have issues to do with food security. Who is going to be the Messiah? This is the conversation we are having tonight as we look and digest to the matters of empty public coffers. What is the new president going to do to fix this? And if not, what are the challenges they're just about to face? With me tonight is a couple of very interesting gentlemen that are going to make the panel tonight, and be sure to join the conversation. We are streaming this live on the Arts in Heart official on YouTube in conjunction with Radio EU Africa, and we equally have this stream live on Blue Radio. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let me start with one Wakili MK, all the way in Nairobi, Kenya. Good evening, Wakili, and how are you tonight? Wakili, if you can get me.
Good evening, Henley. Thank you for having me on the show. I hope you're having a nice evening. I hope where you are.
Karibu sana. Great to have you, Wakili. Are you ready for this conversation?
Exactly. Yes, I'm very ready. I'm very ready. I'm prepared. I'm ready to share with our audience, with our panelists.
Great. And we will be having more of that from you tonight. Thank you so much for joining us. I have, of course, with me one Godwin Segero. Godwin tells me, Eli, we are trying to do what we can, but we still have to discuss matters, leadership, and integrity. Good evening, Godwin, and how are you this evening?
Good evening, Eli. Good evening, Ronald. Happy to see you again. Let's have this conversation. Let's have this conversation rolling. Thank you.
Let's have the conversation rolling. And of course, I have Wakili Majimbo. I think this is all about Wakili conversation. Somebody will start stoning me. Wakili, get your microphone. Let's have you tonight. Good evening and karibu sana.
Thank you, Eli. I'm glad to be on board.
Glad to be on board. The gentlemen are just too precise to the point. They are not mincing their words. We'll now have Paul Ramses, who will allow him to introduce himself. Paul, good evening, wherever you are joining us from. Karibu sana, and kindly introduce yourself.
Good evening, Eli. Paul Ramses Oduor. I'm talking to you from Iceland. Let us talk.
Let us talk, he says, and later on I'll be joining the African man. But for now, let's take the conversation from where it all starts. Last week, we looked at some of the issues that are sickening our country. And it was evident that the panelists were not happy at all. But you know what? We are just about to blow this even further as we look into the debt crisis. Let's start with you, Godwin. Debt crisis, 8.6 trillion Kenyan shillings. Is it something to smile about as you try to get into the presidential office? Or what should these people be worried about?
Actually, it's nothing to smile about, because that's where the whole problem begins. Because when we're having that debt crisis, and what the government is trying to do is to repay, and by trying to do that, the burden shifts to the common mwananchi, and that leads to issues of taxation, and then now the ripple effect is high cost of living, which citizens are suffering from right now. If you watch today, people are demonstrating in the CBD about the current food crisis. The price of unga is just up there, even you can't imagine. And then the abyss is when now the person in charge comes and tells you, you guys, you need to adopt other foods and forget about this ugali thing, because it's a colonial food. It's a colonial thing that was introduced to you, so you can use other foods other than just complaining about unga. I feel I find it to be mockery to the citizens.
Mockery, you say. Paul, you have been a contender for this public office once in the previous elections, and you were running for the Mathare seat. As a member of parliament who was aspiring to be one, what do you think is the problem? Why would we be having debt crisis in our country at these levels? Is it the legislations that you are making? Is it the deals that you are making? Or is it mismanagement? I don't know. I don't want to preempt it.
Well, thank you for having me, Eli. Number one, we are a country that is not producing, even though we have the capacity to produce. Secondly, who are we sending into the house? We look at the material that we're sending to the house, they're going to represent us. My friend Wakila just said that the person in charge, it is we who gave him that authority to make decisions on our behalf. So instead of blaming him, we should blame ourselves. When we go to public coffers, who is responsible? Who is in charge of those public coffers? I wanted to go into parliament, for example, to bring sanity in there, to ask pertinent questions. These are the questions that we don't ask about our leaders. We had 2013, we had an opportunity. Did we ask, is he qualified? Is he capable? We didn't ask that question. At that time, we were sympathizing. Well, we gave him power. We should not blame him alone. We should also blame ourselves. When he comes to visit us where we are, there's a common saying that says, let me say it in Kiswahili, unatuachaje hivyo. So when we unatuachaje hivyo, we're already telling him, don't leave us just like that. Give us something. Where will that something come from? We should be encouraging ourselves to go out there and work. You understand? When we produce for a country, then that will be the beginning. When we start depending on ourselves, that will be the beginning of us standing firm as a people.
It's easier to say producing and trying to, meet the market demands both locally and internationally. But Wakili Ronald, you'll agree with me. For the past few years, we have only been a consuming nation, and most of the the factories that we had working back in the days. You remember some paper mills like Webuye. Growing up, we knew all the geography we studied about Webuye, pan paper, and all that. But these are things that have died. We have the millers, like the sugar millers, they are dead. Then in the president we are seeking to have, is this something that probably we need to rethink our industries, or should we just continue importing?
Actually, thank you once again. I will say it's actually one of the main items that should be on the manifesto of any serious candidate. That is number one, agriculture. Number two, and agriculture will most of the times go hand in hand with industrialization or manufacturing. So when you look at what a candidate is offering as a manifesto or as a solution to this problem, we need to examine what are they saying and what is the practicality of what they're saying. We have lost, we are not actually industrialized at the moment. We have lost many industries. Some are still closing. In fact, we are relying almost entirely on imports. We are exporting nothing. We are only exporting raw materials to industrialize foreign nations. If you go at the airport, the cargo section, we are exporting everything. Avocados, we are actually trying to exporting all our raw materials and importing what we could have manufactured. For instance, if we go into our shops, our supermarkets, you will find sugar, for instance, branded as a Kenyan product. But the reality is that is an imported product. They are imported and stored in warehouses and then packaged and brought onto our shelves. How many people are even employed in that process, in that chain? How much are we making in terms of employment, in terms of taxes, when we only import final products and we have killed our own industries? Nobody will tell me, for instance, that we have had that farmers just gave up growing sugarcane in Western Kenya out of will. It was out of frustration. No policies. Our so-called leaders have infiltrated into the management of these companies, and some to loot away money, others to kill the section so that they can acquire them cheaply or at a throwaway price, and then capture the whole production sector. So in my view, we have contributed to this. And when when generally we are not exporting anything, how do we even earn the dollars? You know, we cannot run. We cannot run on local currency alone. Dollars are important. That foreign exchange is very relevant. You have had previously Pwani Oil Company wanting to close down because they have the central bank has not enough dollars for them to exchange and acquire imports for production of cooking oil. That is the worst impact of relying on entirely exporting and not importing. Not having any foreign currency coming into our nation, because what we are doing is what we are taking away is only raw materials, but then we are not selling them anything. We are not actually selling them enough to get us the dollars we need. It is actually one of the main issues that should be on the main the manifesto main candidates, as we shall dissect as we move on. I would like to stop at that point. Until then, we will be looking at the specific manifestos.
Great, and I see that's interesting that you bring it that way. Let's just have Wakili Majimbo. Majimbo, you seem to be aligned to some interesting party that is trying to get into office, and your party leader is singing a song called the Hustler Nation, a nation where people are supposed to be hustling and being able to, create employment and create wealth and generate income and taxes for this nation. Why is it that this same person has not been able to deliver, and now we want to say the president we want is able to deliver in those parameters? Do you think he's a better option and he has the solution to the problems we are facing today?
Thank you. I think the person you are referring to, without disclosing, I would say that of course I will disclose at some point when you require me to. But I think the person you are referring to, in my view, I have read his manifesto. I have thoroughly gone through, and based on what my colleagues have said, one of the key areas that we need to seriously revamp is agriculture. And if you look at the manifesto we are coming up with, we have put agriculture as an area of priority. That is an area that we need to pump in a lot of resources. We need to revamp our agricultural activities so that we can enhance productivity. And once we do that, we will be able to, of course, uplift the common mwananchi. We'll be able to uplift the hustlers, because this is a sector that can employ very many people. It is a sector that can generate a lot of income for the country. So once we enhance productivity, we will be in a position to even pay some of these debts. The debt selling crisis that we are currently facing, we will be in a position to sort it out.
Okay. Interesting. But the only person that seems to be discussing matters to do with dealing with debt and the crisis of debt is one Tingiza Miti. Godwin, your take, please, before I have, of course, one African man that is on backstage that wants to join us. And, of course, I will ask equally Paul Ramses to come in with his perspective in this. But let's start with you. A better option to solve the debt crisis, Godwin, with the sale of and planting of Bangi. We see today in news, or was it the other day, some Bangi was arrested in Eldoret, and it was a big story.
Currently, is the better option because it's trying to be practical. Because looking at the other manifestos, people are just coming with more promises. And remember, today we are talking about debt crisis. It means when all these people are coming with all these promises, all these things need financing. where are you going to get the finances? Already we are deep into the debts. So it means we are going to borrow more, because if you look at the projections, we are looking at the debt ceiling being raised to 11 trillion by 2026, and that means we'll be having a debt of up to 11 trillion by 2026. But now, on the flip side, as much as what Jacoya is saying about the planting of marijuana and exporting for that matter, you have to look at it from the economics point of view. Why is marijuana currently expensive? It's because it's illegal and there's no supply. So when there's scarcity, now the prices tend to go up. But let's look at it this way. What if he legalizes marijuana and then everyone is planting it's all over? Is the price going to remain the same? Chances are the price is going to go down because there'll be oversupply. So when there's oversupply, because everyone will be looking at it, now the next big thing in the market is marijuana. So all those people growing maize, all those people growing sugarcane will abandon their crops and they'll go into marijuana. We'll be having oversupply. The ripple effect will be we'll have too much marijuana with nowhere to export, because looking at even the countries that have legalized, there are very few. So even if you are to export, you have limited market to export to. You understand? So as much as it's the good option right now, we need to rethink and look at it in a long-term way. You know, what if after that, when there's oversupply of marijuana, what next? You know, look at the snake poison thing. Do we have the market for it? You know, you're talking about hyenas testicles and stuff. Yes, they are good solutions, but how practical are they, and how sustainable are the solutions? So for me, I feel anyone who is coming in terms of a presidential candidate, the first thing is to solve the debt crisis, and it's by curbing the appetite to borrow more and solve how we can reduce whatever we have. And then if we can eliminate local borrowing completely, then we'll be at a better place.
I'll quickly thank you, Gorin. I'll quickly take the comments that are coming in, and then we can proceed with the African man that is there. And of course, I see Paul has adjusted his settings in order to come and give Wakili Majimbo a taste of his own medicine. I see Bonnie Akinyi, karibu sana to the conversation. Goldie, Babes, majina hapa ni nani anaitwa Babes. It's a good one to loosen up the conversation. Thank you so much for tuning in. Maureen Lusweti, Njekita says, with all the resources the country has, we should empower our industries instead of importing. We are killing our local fishermen to import fish from China. This is not acceptable. How ready are we as Kenyans to enter into the bang business, asks Anne Seraphine. And African man, probably you have one or two to say about this before I allow Ramses to rejoin.
Yeah, to answer, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here. Excuses to be a bit late, but it's a hush time.
Thing.
It's an African thing, but not my thing, actually. To answer that, before I get to my point is, the question is if Kenya is ready for change. That's the thing. If we are ready for the change. I think not yet in the mindset. Our mindset is not yet. We are used to narratives. So even the thing that Wajakoya is saying and all those kind of smart farming, some of us are not even in touch with it. So that's where the big problem is. And it comes from all time of colonialism that we have been brainwashed and we've been really put out of touch with ourselves. That is it. We are not ready. Kenya is not ready, I think. Back to my opening, I'm more concerned with the food security. The president I want is somebody who should address the problem and try to solve it locally. Because a lot of African leaders always look on the West, China, to solve their home problems. That's the biggest problem that we have. First, I like to mention something that I always talk about the three worlds, but now I want to talk about the three farms that we have. The first farm you have an African man is your farm here. Whoever plants it here is whoever will harvest. Then you have the belly, is your second farm. And then you have the nature, the soil that you walk on is your third farm. The problem that happened more than 300 years ago, 400 years ago, somebody planted something in the farm that we have, our heads, right from slavery, colonialism. It's not our ideas. Even these government systems are not our ideas. That is why it is very difficult for Wajakoya to get in touch with people, because we're used to narratives. One example is we're talking about food security. Food security, besides the mind, is in the nature, the ground we live on. Africa is the most fertile ground. You can plant almost everything in Africa. Here we have the sun for 3 months, and that is it. You cannot even plant a banana. Here people plant things in houses, greenhouses. I see people also get the mentality of greenhouses in Kenya, not knowing that greenhouses were invented where there is no natural sunshine. They have to invent these things. So for us to really get back to the food security, we have to maximize our third land, and that is the ground that we live on. I support Wajakoya completely, 100%, because he's giving solutions. Most of our leaders rush to borrowing money and come to invest. Then we have a lot of debt capital. We have, even at some point, we'll get these roles at debt capital. You understand? You look at in the village, you go in the village, you build a 3 million house, which you cannot even maintain. You understand? So at the end of the day, you spend 3 million. This house will never bring anything back apart from just being luxury. So the president we want should be the president to take care of those 3 farms. First, plant the right mentality. We're used to narratives. For example, there's a very bad narrative in Kenya. When you hear about marijuana, everybody thinks it's only about getting high. First of all, there's a kind of marijuana, even if you smoke it, you don't get high. We have TLC and CBD. TLC, you get
telling
high.
us you have experience?
Of course, 100%, I do. I've been a farmer here in the coffee shops. I know what I'm talking about. Then again, the products that come of it, we call it plant medicine. Marijuana is #1 plant that is medicine. You know, what people don't understand is, even in Africa right now, we still have those people who go to the forest and get medicine and you are healed. Why was marijuana banned? Just because the big pharma wants to take over. Because if you know very well that marijuana can heal all the diseases, it will be useless to have hospitals. That's true. So first of all, they planted a bad narrative in our head to tell us marijuana is poison. Actually, it's medicine. That's the first farm that we have to clean. Wajakoya is doing a very good job to clean the first farm, people to have another mentality. Marijuana is not poison. It's not killing people. It is healing people. Misuse is there. Even if you misuse milk, you will die. Even if you misuse alcohol, you will die. So let us shift the mentality up here to know that that thing we are calling poison is actually the medicine. That's the first one we have to take care of. Our belly is empty. Let me finish. Our belly is empty. Let us not have njaya leo. Let us think in the future, our children. Then we'll get it. And then let us cultivate our land. That's where I can stop for now.
Wow. You all heard what Matasio said, and the African man is really not happy because of this very bad narrative that people keep peddling. I don't know about yourself, Paul. What do you think of Baba's idea of addressing our issues? Do you think he has what it takes?
Before I even go there, I am a Kenyan by birth and an African by philosophy. I hold 2 dual citizenships, Kenyan and Icelandic. I live in a country that is 360,000 people. That is like 3 or 4 Tharaka Nithis. But if you see the way these guys are organized, that a country of less than 500,000 can give us debt, I mean, can give us a loan. We have to ask ourselves first, is Kenya a poor country? Are we a poor people? Then why do we have these debts? Let us go back to the origin. Let me tell you a small story about myself. I lived in Kariobangi and Mathare. At that time, our external debt was only 2 billion. 2 billion. Today, more than 30 years later, we are talking of trillions. What was the cause? Let me bring us back to 2013, when Jubilee came into power. We had a 50-50 government. We all agreed that 50-50 government. UDA or Ruto's side took 50%. What did he do with that 50%? What did Uhuru do with the other 50%? Let us ask ourselves critical questions. When did we start borrowing massively? Only the last 10 years. There was a lust
Well,
for
the
money.
president said it was for the betterment of our economy and opening up the country.
So he wasn't alone. He wasn't alone. All these things were decided in a cabinet where Ruto sat. Now he's telling us that he will come and rectify all that. You see, there are 7 things that God hates. And top of the list, a lying tongue. I am an ambassador of Christ. I should represent this man, Christ Jesus, and tell the truth. You see? Number 2 in that list that God hates is hands that shed innocent blood. Let us speak ourselves to the truth. When the moment we started borrowing, we have to give reasons. The reason that the president has given is according to him. These things were agreed in government. Did they revive pen paper that Wakili mentioned there? Did we revive Kikomi in Kisumu? Did we revive Kisumu breweries? How many industries? How many did we? So he wants to come. He's coming to tell us that we are hustler nation, a nation of hustlers. We are going to uplift from bottom up. The way he's going to do it is fine, but let us ask ourselves: are we poor people? If you lack money, are you poor? Kenyans are very, very intelligent. We are very, very rich in our hearts. We're very, very rich in wisdom and so many other things. And we can make decisions that are going to help us. Now we have a man that has been tried and tested. And this is Baba. This man has put in a 10-point pillar. People are calling them agenda. Me, I call them pillars. Right now, as we stand at more than 10 trillion, something like that, I will still ask him to borrow. You know why? So that he can be able to stabilize this economy. You understand? We are a country like ours is like in we are at the ICU. The economy is dying. Now tell me something. If you have your own mother in the ICU, do you start by raising from bottom up, or do you start to stabilize the patient first? We are looking for a person who has been tried and tested. And that particular person is giving us the ideas. He's saying, first of all, what we're going to do is that agriculture thing. There is no need of having a patient in ICU, then maybe trading his lungs or maybe, other organs to other people and saying, oh, takupatia hii kusudi nipatie hii. Naelewa. The same
Paul,
people that
allow me to interrupt, Paul, so that I
Yes.
can get this. You say this candidate that you feel is the best suited to be the president we want, and we are referring to His Excellency Raila Amolo Odinga. And now I think he goes with that name because he supposedly shares some interest in government. He has been in politics, both in government and out of government. He suddenly wants to be the Messiah. Really? Paul, is that what you're telling us?
How many years was he in government? And how many times? Being in politics, even me, I'm in politics now, but there is nothing that I can be able to influence in my own village. There are people that have been in politics for many years and even building just a culvert leading to their own homes. They cannot do that. We have got politicians that are in parliament many years. And these people cannot even pass a bill. We've got parliamentarians that in our own government, in our own parliament now that have not spoken, not even, in fact, sneezing only. They have not sneezed in parliament for 5 years that they've been there, but we've been paying them. Now, we want to raise the borrowing ceiling. Tell me. The Bible says, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. I'll tell you where you are going.
I
If we
like
take
that you've
business,
said that. I like that you've
if we,
said that. And I'm not
if we
trying to
take,
interrupt you. I just want to get
yeah,
this right. Show me your friend and I'll tell you who you are, is exactly what I'm saying. The person that is in charge of the so-called coalition, if I call it, or the party that wants to elect the next president is Uhuru Kenyatta, the president.
yes,
He has
yes,
a bad record that we are now complaining about. Are you telling me Baba will be a miracle worker? Let's hear from MK and, of course, later on from Majimbo. Let's start with you, MK, if you don't
can I,
mind.
can I
Let
just
us
interject?
actually,
Okay.
Go on, go on, go on.
Ellie, actually, it is important to be factual. Referring to Raila Odinga Amolo as His Excellency at this moment is incorrect. Then on that issue, I will wish to start where my colleague just stopped. Where we have the problem now, and actually the reason why Raila has nothing on the debt ceiling or the public debt in his manifesto is actually what has been said. The guys want to borrow. Ruto has nothing in his manifesto. The guys want to borrow more. And you can see what the debt has done. You can see what Sri Lanka is in, the kind of situation that Sri Lanka is gotten themselves into. It is actually because of our debt, a very big public debt. And then we are here, we want to elect in somebody who wants to borrow more. In fact, raise the ceiling and then borrow more. Are we going to get a solution, or are we going to get into more shit? And this is the reason. You look at who is controlling the Azimio campaign. It is obvious, it is out here. Uhuru is the chairman of the council. Uhuru will be in the government. Uhuru will be in Raila's government. He is already there in his campaign machinery. You are not going to convince anyone that Uhuru will leave the council and go home. And now who will be controlling every decision that Raila makes? In fact, right now as we speak, as Uhuru is getting this country into more debt, Raila has confessed to actually having been the advisor to Uhuru in the last almost 5 years since the handshake. And you can see where the advisor and the adversary have gotten us into, where they have gotten us into. And onto the same point, if I look at actually when I look at the four candidates that have been cleared, only one, in my own opinion, seems to provide seems to talk about the debt, the public debt, but doesn't really give it much flesh, doesn't give it much substance on how he's going to do it. And this is actually Mwaure. I'm sure you'll be surprised if you read his manifesto. He's talked about it. He's talked about the cash that is stashed abroad. He's talked about recovering that money and actually putting it into use. We have only heard of Mother Karua talking of recovering 800 billion from corruption cases and then dishing out 6,000 to people in what they're talking about, that they're calling social protection. It is actually not practical. You know, a manifesto has to be practical for you to defend it. And Wajakoya, when you hear Wajakoya talking of marijuana and animal organs, to me, with respect, it sounds as a comedy kind of manifesto, and hanging people who are found corrupt. You know, you're talking about people's lives. You're talking about just hanging people when there is no provision for that kind of a penalty in the law. Then you want to convince the people, the electorate who are ignorant of the law, that actually you can do that, and then you want to call that a solution to the public debt. That is laughable. That is actually mockery. And then you can grow marijuana. How many countries import marijuana? Jamaica has legally grows marijuana. What is the economic status? How many countries will import our marijuana? Countries that need it have actually allowed the growth of it, and they regulate the growth of it. They have the scientific and technological know-how of how to use it medically. We have not researched, other than a herb that you walk into a forest and pick or use or abuse. We have actually no that research here. If you tell somebody who is supporting it, like specifically tell us, what is marijuana going to treat? Research based, you may not get an answer. You may find that watasema tu marijuana is medicinal. Yes, marijuana may be, we may sell marijuana. How sure are we that China is going to get out the market for marijuana, the animal products, the testicles for the hyenas? And that is the revenue we are relying on to cover our economy and to get us pay the public debt. We are talking of trillions. We are not talking of a few thousand shillings here and there, and then it is going to lose value. Immediately it is grown, it loses value here. We are going to misuse it, it's going to corrupt our morals, it's going to go into, I really don't support what Jacoya is talking. I wish we could have substance on what Maura is saying, although I'm not sure whether he'll be elected. So that is actually my take. And one thing that we should actually be very cautious about, whoever gets into that office should not borrow. Let them employ any other means. Let them talk about reducing the budget deficit. Budget deficit is simply what you have put down as the budget expense against what you've collected. That is the difference, and that's what actually has made this government to borrow, and then they are still talking of building infrastructure. Actually, I was looking at Ruto's manifesto. It talks of building 700 kilometers of road, completing other roads. I mean, I'm not an expert, but why don't you suspend such projects until we are stable? We are actually not in a very big crisis for roads.
Yes, Ramsey, we
That's
cut you
my
short,
take.
so you can pick it up, and then let's have an open mic session after Ramsey makes his point.
Number one, I just got 2 points to put forward, and I'll give you my own personal example. When I was getting married, you are choosing a woman, not because of the way they look. Choose a woman that you know will be the mother of your children. Then look, I mean, you know that the two of you will bring up children later. You understand? If you're buying a car, don't go for the models. There are two things you have to look at. Just like when you're choosing a leader, look at the dependability, not because you like him. Personally, I don't like Raila. I love the person. I love him. I follow him. Because to me, like for this particular person is a very, very small adjective that I could use. I want to choose the biggest adjective I have. I love him. Number one, we have to allow him to borrow in order for those 10 pillars of him can be able to stand. Then we can be able to start producing. That is the only way we can be able to move forward. I'm talking to you out of experience and out of the man. If you look at him, if you look at us now, who best represent us in agriculture? We are not producing anything in our farms. Ruto was minister Ruto was minister for agriculture. What happened? We heard of all these scandals. We heard of all these scandals that were there. You understand me? Now he wants to come to ask us to give him more power. You cannot solve a problem with the same kind of thinking that created the problem. If it was me, I cannot even give him a minister for agriculture, even not even a cars. He doesn't even qualify for that because he didn't even prove to us. When they borrowed in their first term, his vision was on 2022, and he put all people from his own ethnic group with one sole agenda: go there and look for money for 2022. Kumi yangu, kumi yake. To fulfill that agenda, let us go and borrow. All the money that were borrowed when the Eurobond sagas came about, they called President, they called Raila Mutu Kitendawili. How much money went out to the offshore accounts? The other day you heard of these Panama papers. Let us go back to ourselves as a country. The country is in ICU. We are looking for a surgeon. We are looking for somebody who can be able to successfully operate on a mom or me, myself. We have a doctor that we know that his success rate, every other patient that he's already operated on, has got 110% chance to survive, and that is Raila Odinga. You see, these other people we've seen them. We've seen them with ministries.
If I may come in, Paula.
Before you come in, I'll forget all these things. Before you come in, look, You are giving your life. You are giving your life. This is the future of the nation. The country is hanging there on life support. Do you want to give it to the same people that helped loot it, the same people that helped put it there? I mean, how many feces do we have, and why should we be cruel to our animals? I should be talking about improving. Breeding more feces for Japanese to come and Chinese to come to us.
Let me be honest
keep
here.
forgetting Uhuru Kenyatta in your account.
MK,
Why do you
will come to you. Let's allow MK will come to you. Let's allow Godwin and of course Majimbo, please. They have been good listeners.
Paul, if I might cut you short, I think let's not be blinded by the so-called Baba and whoever we follow, because let's take an example of Raila, because that's what we're talking about. If you can compare the Raila that we had and the Raila we have right now, the Raila we have right now is more of, I don't know how to use some words, but he's sleeping, because where he is right now, he's just after the title. All of us, Paul, tell me, you just talked about the issue of the Pandora Papers. Raila has been here. He knows about whatever happened. What has he said about it? It's because his body's there and he's looking at succeeding.
That's the question. How many times did Raila open his mouth and we branded him names? Mutu Akitendawili, Mogorokiano. We call him so, even as some unprintable words in our local press. You see?
Exactly, Paul. And you see, if that's the thing, if he still stands by what he believed in, it doesn't mean just because people call you names, now you have to lose your morals and principles just for the sake of the seat. If he was true about whatever he was saying, and if he meant it, he should be standing the same ground that he had that time. Because right now, Raila is quiet. Everything comes. He's supporting the government. All of us know where the government has led us right now. We all know the cost of living. He's not talking about anything. So if you're there, if you're advising the person who is in power right now, and nothing is happening, what makes you think you're going to change situation in 100 days when you assume office? Let us not be lied to.
Raila was there in the Grand Coalition, and when there was the maize scandal, he put aside Ongeri and this same Ruto man. What happened? He was branded. He was told to his face that you are not the appointing authority. Well, he put down. Understand?
And now,
in 2007, listen, 2007, 2008, there was chaos. There was chaos in the country. This man calmed down for the sake of the nation. The same thing 2017. We are looking at a situation whereby, look, even I can give you advice. I can talk to you. Right now, we're talking to each other. It is up to me now to decide on what to do with the advice you're going to give to me. Maybe he's already given Uhuru that particular advice. So it is up to Uhuru to do that. He cannot force it.
Exactly, Paul. And let's talk about corruption. Raila has come out to be like that, the leading person against the fight against corruption. Let's talk about who is in a circle. If you can remember, just recently, Raila was called the sanitizer, because when you're corrupt or you're having any issue, just go shake hand with Raila and you're clean. Remember the issue of Waiguru when he wanted to be impeached. Whatever happened, who saved Waiguru in the Senate? Because just before Waiguru, Sonko and Waititu were impeached in the plenary. But now when it came to the turn of Waiguru, she was sent to 11 committee of the Senate members. You understand? Now we have people who have been convicted. Someone like Waluke in the same maize scandal. Now, when he was on this side, he was a bad person. But now, because he shifted ground, he was cleared by ABC. How do you tell me someone who is fighting corruption, he's having the same people in his surroundings? So you cannot speak from one side of the mouth and then.
My question is one. Raila is not a public prosecutor. Raila is running for political office. So if these people have been mentioned by the government agencies and they've been taken there and our courts are delaying, it is not up to Raila now to hang them. You see, we are having interpersonal communications. Let me tell you, the level of corruption, the level of corruption in our country is such that, for example, if you or if me, I died today, then we go to heaven. The angel will ask us a question. Do you know what a Kenyan will say? Nimeletwa hapa hivi na Moses. In the gate of heaven.
Okay, let's get to heaven because there's a lot of heaven trips to make. Majimbo, you seem silent on all this issue. Are you okay that the man you believe that is supposed to be taking that office seems to be on everyone's lips. But his master seemingly is equally a saint today, and nobody wants to talk about him.
You see, the problem that we are facing here is that, you see, people want to paint Raila as a saint. They want to portray him as the Messiah who's coming to save the country, which is false. The truth of the matter is that even Raila himself knows that he is in this game for his own selfish reasons, for his own selfish interests. You remember very well that when Raila did the handshake with President Uhuru, that was back in 2017, their first agenda was BBI. BBI, if you had a chance to interrogate that document, it had a lot of selfish interests. And that is why it was shot down by the courts, and there were celebrations all over. So he has even promised us that he will be back to BBI 1 if he makes government. And I believe him. I believe that is what he wants. You remember that one time, Raila, through Junet, threatened James Orengo and Otiendo Omolo when they opposed that BBI. So it shows to what extent Raila can go to just pursue his own selfish interests. But I want to say that people want to blame the Deputy President Ruto when
We have to get that checked. Matasio Kagwa. The narrative that all of a sudden Raila is the Messiah and Ruto seems to be taking all the blows from everything, because that's how it is, and that's how Paul is portraying this conversation. Is this a fair judgment?
Can I react to that?
Yes, please.
First of all, that's the problem I've been talking about. On this panel, first of all, we are discussing people, not ideas. As I said before, the farm here is rotten. People, we discuss ideas. We don't discuss people. We're explaining how we love Raila, how we hate Ruto, and all that. That's where the first problem begins.
I think the issue here is, Matasio, so that we are on the same page. These are the people who have decided to vie for these offices, and therefore
yes, I know.
have to bring them into the conversation.
Yes, I know.
The ideas they are carrying to solve the problems of our country.
Just give me time. Give me space. Sometimes let's be patient with conversations. You understand? So, for me, I can discuss Raila's ideas of 10 years ago. I can discuss Raila's ideas of this. It's okay, we can discuss BPI. Anyway, that was just by the side. That being said and done, I want to react on some things. There's something which are very clear. First of all, you cannot keep doing the same thing expecting different results. We cannot keep borrowing and stealing. We cannot keep going on like that. We do the same thing, expect the same different results. Now, and then we put another narrative on top. Oh, we stole some money, we hid it in Europe, so let's go get it back. It is still the same narrative. Oh, we're going to recover 800 million. Recover from where? It's still the continuation of the narrative. And then we shall recover the money again. Another narrative goes on. The problem we have now is simple. Or we borrow or we produce. Whether we are in ICU or not. Or we borrow or we produce. So Kenyans have to think, for how many years have we been borrowing? Have we been solving the problems? So to clear our mind, we have to look in two ways. Two roads go two ways. This way we borrow, this way we produce. That one, we have to be clear with it. Second thing is, my brother, I heard you react to Wajakoya's philosophies as comedy. Of course, Kenyans were used to making jokes of everything, even serious matters. I remember a book said it was not a laughing matter, but women laugh. That's I keep that thing. We are laughing at serious issues right now. Somebody mentioned, oh, Wajakoya wants to nyonga people without any plan. The same very people in Kenya, we have got something invented called mob justice. Somebody steals a watch in town, a small wallet, we beat him, we put tires on him, we ban him, even without complaining. Somebody steals your billions, steals a whole school land, and now you want to talk justice. Or we cannot just hang people. We are the same people who are killing petty thieves, hanging them, at the same time protecting the big thieves. That's our problem. Also fucked up here. Sorry, also messed up here. Now, another thing is, let me tell my friend, look at Singapore. Singapore a while ago was even worse than Kenya. Singapore is giving us a loan because of such principles. You are corrupt, you are killed immediately. And of course with evidence. Look at China, the same thing. They may be corrupt in a different way. So we need serious measures. We need serious measures to help solve these problems. Another thing, maybe sometime when you don't know what you're talking about or what somebody's talking about, it is good to understand. I will, my friend, I am available to give you a detailed 47 pages proving how marijuana is medicine. Accepted in Canada, accepted in the Netherlands, actually half of the European cities accept it. So when people in Kenya still don't understand this is medicine, they get a bit confused because we have to re-brainwash ourselves first. So those are some of the things you should be looking at. If we want to choose let us look through the words. Do your own research. Go sit down, Google advantages of marijuana versus other things. Medicine. So all those things. So for me, what is more important here is to really look deep in what these people are saying. The only person I see focusing on producing is Wajakoya. The rest are focusing on borrowing again. We have been borrowing and we know borrowing means stealing. Even recovering means stealing again. So when we go recover those 800 billion, come back, how are you going to do with them? They go to the county governments, the governors to steal again. So let us just be very clear. This one is a crossroad. We are in ICU, yes. Lakini saa hizi itakuwa au ni maombi, au ni ukweli, au I don't know what. But things have to change. We cannot borrow anymore. We have to think producing. Borrowing and then, borrowing, let me tell you one thing. In Holland, we always tell us, borrowing costs money. That's what we don't understand. Borrowing costs money. So we don't have money. We are getting into a deal that's going to cost us more. Why are we doing that? To be honest. So for me, to be very clear, let us think straight. Are we going to produce or are we going to borrow? Kenyans, we should think like that when it comes to recovering the economy. But this is what I'm saying, Baba Ombe Tena, my friend, to be very honest, you are just going as a roundabout. Now, Baba has been, they have been borrowing all the time. Yeah.
And just to add on that, Matasio, I think the issue of borrowing, there's one thing Wajakoya said, and I think it's an idea the rest should borrow in terms of, you know, like Kenyans, we're used to this kind of suffering. The only thing is we suffer and expect more suffering. But if the next presidential candidate comes in and says, you know what, you guys, you have to fasten your seatbelts for the next 2 years, it's going to be a rough ride, in the sense that we are, whatever that we are collecting is going to repay our debt because we are trying to reduce on the debt that we have. But after that, once we reduce on the debt, we'll be back on track and we'll have everything going back in place. Because what you're doing now, we try to borrow trying to solve a problem, but in the long run, the money ends up in the pockets of few individuals, and then the government runs dry again. It shifts the burden to the common mwananchi. The common mwananchi suffers a lot. And then when there's no money, the parliament raises another debt ceiling. We borrow again, few individuals still. And then the sad bit is, even the money that is being stolen is not being used to develop our own country or empower our own citizens. It goes in offshore accounts. And then the next time you'll come calling other countries, first world countries, so Switzerland is a first world country, but yet it's your money that is developing those countries because they're safe havens, you know. Why don't you, even if you're stealing, steal reasonably, and then let's reinvest that money in our own. Don't steal. You know.
Did you just say we steal reasonably because that's
not at all. Don't steal at all.
Ellie, let me practice. See, let me finish. See, I understand where you guys are coming from, but let's be realistic at the same time, because this is not something we're just going to clear overnight and say tomorrow. No, there's no stealing. You know,
So, in
at
other
least
words, we
if
have to withdraw like smokers.
You
We start
cannot
with
be
7
7
realistic
sticks,
in
then
that
5, 4, 3,
physicality.
2, 1.
Let me finish my point. My brother Gordon was supporting me. Let me just finish, then at least I'm done. So go to that. Then I come to my opening point when I said somebody who wakes you up, shows you the land. Look at this thing in Embu. We know the whole story of Mira. Wajakoya tells them very clearly, we have seen Mira's been a booming business, but do you know how many middlemen are there? He tells them, I'll put an aeroplane here. You already have a runway. It goes directly. You see, look at something like coffee, tea. This the farming thing that we've been brainwashed with. Tea has to come, coffee has to come from Kenya, go somewhere in Germany, be processed and sold back to Kenya 50 times the price. That is what I'm saying. Somebody has planted the wrong mentality here, and with that mentality, we are using it on our third land. So the only president candidate who is addressing this issue critically is somebody who's telling you, panda marijuana yako, tutakulipa pesa, palinauzo wewe usijali. Don't even bother about where we will sell the marijuana. You try first. Take your 2 acres of land, get your 300,000, and then you will know. Just like with Mira.
Paul, you have something itching you because I think we are not going to have this conversation anymore.
No,
We needed to respond to that marijuana conversation because I believe that is a populist ideas and they're only good on paper. In terms of
practically, no. I live in that. No. I live in that reality. They are real here in Netherlands. They are real. I live. It's not on paper. Practically, it works.
Matasio, allow Majimbo to give his point, please. Allow Majimbo.
Yes, I wanted to say, you see, when Matasio says he lives in Netherlands and those ideas are practical, you know, Kenya is not Netherlands. If Wajakoya is genuine about his manifesto, let him tell us how he is going to make sure that marijuana we plant here, all the hyenas we are going to arrest, or rather all the hyenas we are going to kill and extract those things, whatever he was saying, the snakes we are going to rear. Let him tell us how we are going to turn that into a profitable activity. You know, Wajakoya just goes on stage and tells people that, if you plant marijuana and sell, you're going to make money. There are things, there is policy framework, there's legal framework. You need to set up laboratories. You need a market. You need so many things in order to make sure that you will secure a profit out of that manifesto. It looks good on paper, but in terms of practicability, he hasn't told us how he's going to do it. So,
can I answer on his behalf?
You need to tell us how that is going to be done.
Not for now, please. Matasio, hold your horses. We have 4 other panelists here that need to air something on this issue. Kindly, Matasio.
Ask Kagame. Kagame has done it. Just go here in Kagame. He's selling it in Canada right now. Just don't even ask Wajakoya.
I beg for your indulgence, Matasio, and let's
have...
You
cannot gauge yourself with what other people have done. You need to tell us what you're going to do, you yourself. But they're not telling us. You cannot
they're not telling us. MK.
They said you are not telling us what you're going to do.
MK, before I bring in Paul.
Yes, MK. I'm actually adding my voice to what Majimbo is saying in terms of the issue of marijuana. You see, it is actually, a manifesto has to be, because one may actually form a policy out of it. It is actually a proposed policy for a running candidate. It has to be achievable and you have to be realistic. You have to be realistic in a way that what you are saying is actually what you can do, and tell people that you will achieve it in this manner. Just telling people that you will plant and export 50 guineas of marijuana to China, you see, you are exciting the crowds. But now when you get to the office and sit down and you tell these people, now we want to plant marijuana and you want to get billions to pay the debt out of it, you may not realize it actually. And then secondly, even Matasio knows, out of all the issues that Wajakoya talks of uses to purport to implement to raise revenue, Matasio has only focused on marijuana. Matasio has avoided killing hyenas.
I don't have time.
He knows the whole manifesto is actually other than 3 points or 2, the whole manifesto is actually a scam. He even talks of suspending the constitution. And when you talk of hanging people, yes, we may say yes, it's okay. Corrupt people should be hanged. But now, what process does the guy need to go to so that he does what is actually legal? You know, it is not something that is achievable just the way we are at this moment and tell people like, in a rally, nyonga watu wa corrupt people, alafu people clap for you and you get to the office and you can't. Now you look like you lied. Then you've actually broken your own promises in the manifesto. You need to be realistic. We need people who are actually presenting solutions in their manifestos. We are not people who are going to excite crowds and we because most of his supporters right now actually young people who are blindly supporting wacha tupande banki. If you ask them actually what else did Wajakoya say other than planting banki and exporting the wages, they will tell you nothing. But they are always cheering him in the crowds. That is not what we want. We want actually practical solutions. I agree with Matasio. We need to produce. But what I'm saying we need to produce, actually marijuana is not one of them.
Marijuana is not one of them. Tutingizi miti, and we have been sold lies in the past. Are these the same lies that you think? And I have Paul. Are these the same lies Ruto is peddling? And are these the same antidote Baba is giving? Another lie.
You are absolutely correct and right. You see, I told you that I'm an ambassador of Christ. There's a difference between knowing what Jesus will do and knowing what he can be able to do and meeting him personally. If you represent somebody, you have to know him. So I'm talking about somebody that I know. And I know the miracle that he can be able to perform. Let me go back to the miracles that we are talking about. Yes, we are going to produce, but at the moment, look at Kenya from Mandera to Kwale. I mean, all the points. I ask a question: are we a poor country? We are dwelling on marijuana. It is okay, but is that the only thing we can be able to do? You see, God, when he created the black man, he had an idea with us. That is why he brought all the minerals and put it under the earth in our continent. But there's a difference between knowing that we have it there and taking it out. We have to go deep in there. The Bible says that my people perish because of lack of knowledge. God tells us, my children, come, let us reason together. Now let us reason. What is the state of the nation? What is the state of the country? What is the state of the young people that are now clapping for somebody? The youth are the future of this nation. They are clapping for bangi, na testicles za nini, za fisi. This is the moral consciousness of the country. The Church of Jesus is looking the other side when they are being given what? Millions in terms of offering. And they are going to receive it. They are diverting what? Attention. Let us come back to reality. I cannot feed my child. Kila saa maisha ni ngumu, maisha ni ngumu, maisha ni ngumu. Look at the state of our women. Look at the state of our mothers back home. Look at the state of Pumwani maternity, where if you go to give birth, where the first cries of life is coming, women are being slapped simply because of the way we have. Baba is saying that through Baba Care, you understand, this is what you're going to do. He's looking at these young men that are clapping at Wajakoya blindly. He's saying, you know, gentlemen, for you, I'm going to stimulate you by doing this for you. See? And for him to do that, we have to be productive. We have a system, we have a country now that hata kupeleka dem Luthuli Avenue ni ngumu. Huwezi katia dem juu hauna, na dem akijua hauna, utamwambia nini? You see? So let us look at the practical solutions. What is the backbone of our nation? Is agriculture. It is a shame that 59 years after independence, we are still importing cheese from Denmark. Now tuko na JKU cut. I mean, university. We have got graduates that are graduating from universities. Unaanza job unemployed. You go to a governor's office, unauliza kazi, unaambiwa uko na experience. Ulitoa wapi experience if you didn't know? But the thing is, why should I go to a university for 4 years? Then I come after 4 years, unipatie boda boda, munipatie wheelbarrow. Surely, I'm asking a question. The solution is, let us borrow, hata kama ni 1 trillion, baba care idumishwe, unaona. Sikiza tu, unaona. Baba care hospitali zetu zishike vizuri. Unaona, we need a working nation and a healthy nation, not a walking nation. Where are our young people going? Lastly, look at how we black people are dying in the Mediterranean, trying to cross over to Europe, like cockroaches. Na wanatucheka na tumenyamaza. Why? Because we've already lost hope with our own motherland. Today, there is one black man in Africa, in Kenya, saying to us that even you guys that are in the diaspora, I'm going to open for you a bank here. We value the 3% GDP that you guys normally send to us here in Kenya. Una to boost. Raila is already telling us that, every 2 years we are going to have what? A meeting for all diasporans. You see? Let us discuss issues that affect you guys there. Why should I be sitting in a classroom discussing, tukona shamba za marijuana? Kama we are having animal lions zinatuchapa, zinatuuma pale Kitengela. Because to encroach kwa land zao. You see? When we have got different, hard questions among ourselves. You know what happened in Mau Forest? You see? Azimio government, with this black man, anatuproposia kwamba we cannot work by ourselves. We must elevate women. Raila tells us very well in his 10-point manifesto that women are responsible for more than 80% of all food production in Africa, and more so in Kenya. What are we doing to our women? Why have we put them down? That's why he's talking about single mothers. What is the solution to that? He cannot give them that money. Just like that, he has to borrow it in order to stabilize it, so that these people can be empowered to go and work.
Well,
you borrow money to get somebody a job.
I will have to end that conversation there, gentlemen. I will have to end that there. Paul,
Eli, let me finish.
You have 30 seconds to make your point.
Okay, 30 seconds. Look at the 10 pillars. And before we look at those, and even as we look at the 10 pillars, let us look at the real person who can be able to champion these things, to be able to be the bedrock, the backbone of our nation. We cannot go just as men. We have to go with our women as well.
We have to go with our women as well. I end you there, sir.
The last question is, how did it all begin?
Yes.
How did we get ourselves here?
How did we get ourselves there? We borrowed.
We borrowed.
We are being told we need to borrow. There is Majimbo. Do we need to borrow? Do we have a better solution from the candidates that are presenting, including the one that you're fronting?
I think, let me tell you that borrowing is not bad. In fact, even locally, we survive because of loans. But what we must really address ourselves onto is, how do we use the money that we borrow? We must do a cost-benefit analysis. In my own estimation, if you look at what Jubilee has done using the money it has borrowed, it has used that money very, very badly, because you find projects like the expressway, we pump in, the expressway, we did not use borrowed money on the expressway, but I will single out maybe another project. You will find that a road like, what do we call the road that comes from Allsops to Eastlands area? You find that a road like that one, you put in close to 20 billion on a 13-kilometer road, meaning that we construct one of the most expensive roads in Kenya. So if you do a cost-benefit analysis, you will find that we have not used the money we've borrowed properly. We need to identify projects that can return good, can yield good returns on investment. That way, if we borrow, if we borrow and we have projects that can return good investments, we will have money to repay back that loan. So we will essentially be borrowing money, but we will be putting that money to good use. If you look at the plan is the Hustlers Manifesto. We have identified key areas that, and we have also identified how we are going to finance those particular items that we have captured in the plan. So,
is it the
in
borrowing?
short, what I'm saying is,
Are you going to borrow in the plan?
part of the money has to be borrowed. I must
Oh,
agree that
Jesus, save
part
us
of the
from
money
these
has to be borrowed.
borrowing
And
people.
the rest of
Let's
the money,
find out if
you see,
somebody else believes something
let
different.
me just highlight one point. Let me just highlight
Okay.
one point. You see, as part of the plan, what we are saying is we need to increase the tax base. Once we pump money into the economy so that we are able to enhance productivity, we are able to make sure that businesses are earning them income, and people are able to pay taxes. We'll be able to expand the tax base, and we'll be able to collect a lot of revenue to fund our budget. And that is how we are going to fund our manifesto and part of the agenda projects we have identified in our manifesto. So we already have a plan on how we are going to finance our manifesto without necessarily relying on borrowing.
I refuse to agree.
Allow me to allow.
Allow me to say
You
one
refuse
more
to
thing.
agree, it's allowed. But MK,
Let's just finish.
Yes.
MK, as we
Yes.
wind up, these two gentlemen are discussing, and when I refer gentlemen, I'm actually looking at the representation, because Paul here tend to believe in the narrative and in the dream that Baba has for this nation, whereas we have Wakili Majimbo, who believes in what the hustler narrative. And the fundamental of all it's they need and must borrow to sustain us. Is that the only solution left, MK?
Actually, if you were to, if when I look at actually the two candidates, the two sides, we are presented with two candidates who tend to have only one solution, and this is borrowing to their manifestos. You look at Ruto's manifesto, was talking about 2 billions, only billions, allocations, billions, and you wonder, where is this money coming from? The silent thing is that what Majimbo says, borrowing is in the program. It is actually in the pipeline. They are going to borrow. Now, the problem actually is not borrowing. The problem is what has happened previously when we have borrowed. Have we used this money? Because somebody will argue, even the USA has a debt, Japan has a debt, yes, but how have they utilized that debt? Have they stolen all the money through corruption? Have they invested in some concrete or tarmac somewhere that are not even bringing in any revenues to the country? It is about roads and what have you, and nothing else about the local Mwananchi. You can see what is happening. We are talking of expanding Mombasa Road all the way. Well, we are deep in debt. Is that actually a very urgent issue? So when you look at the two sides and you see the teams, in my opinion, is you are looking at Raila's Azimio's side, and you are looking at power-hungry guys who are only keen in elbowing the other side so that they get onto the table and steal. You look at Ruto's side, you actually haven't seen difference. There are people who are there. There are people who are there, and they are all, you will, Raila or Ruto may not steal, but you will see he's not going to work alone. He's going to work with people who are there and they have interests. They are ready to take whatever they will get. So because it will now be their turn to eat. So to me, borrowing is not the solution. And if we can limit borrowing for 2 continuous years, reduce our budget deficit so that we are only having on the budget, we are only having what we have raised as revenue being utilized in the budget, although we will be having debts to finance, but we are not borrowing more. We are only limiting our budget. Let us just suspend those mega projects and let us concentrate on the expenditures we have so that the country is actually running. We are not in Sri Lanka's crisis. The country is running all the other facilities, the services are being offered. but then we have suspended the main projects. Then we try to encourage production where there is any and where there is anything the government can do. Reduce power, reduce price, some prices of, let's say, fuel, so that at least the local mwananchi can have some money in their pocket. They can purchase, and that is how you raise some revenue. You cannot actually raise revenue out of taxing the local mwananchi or everything from their pocket. You raise nothing, and tomorrow you will have nothing to tax from them. They are home, they have nothing, because you kill their small business by taxation. So that is not what you do. You let us work within sustainable parameters. Let us not borrow. We are already past the limit. That is what I will say. Let us explore them. There are many elements.
No borrowing no more.
Okay,
Just a short one.
gentlemen, I'm gonna give
Just a
each
short
of
one.
you 1 minute to make your closing remarks. I'll start with you, Paul. 1 minute strictly.
Oh, well, number one, I wanted to give you an example of the collapse of the banks in Iceland 2008, and the Greek, they had to borrow in order for them to stand again. If you're doing a business, debe iko wazi, you have to feel it in order for you to be able to move. Okay, my parting shot is this. I am a former footballer. I played for AFC Leopards. I played for Gora. I played for Utalii. Football was my passion, and football is a big business here in Europe. I see a lot of talent in Kenya just being wasted. 2 years ago, I brought a team of young footballers to come and play football. Sorry. And I saw the opportunities that are here. My biggest disappointment will be what I'm going to tell my son. I am so sorry you cannot play for Kenya simply because the stadium in Wote was not complete. I'm so sorry you cannot play for Kenya, the country of your father, simply because the stadiums that we were promised are not even there, not even existent. These are the same people that want to run football for us. These are the same people that want to run sports for us. Yet I know that a talent for a Kalenjin guy can be able to earn him 9 or 6 million here in Europe, just for running only. Even in that proposal, there was no stadium proposed for Western, Kisii, or even Nyanza, where we have the bulk of Kenyan footballers. This is the person that we still want to give a country to run for us. This person was there when our agriculture was falling. I'm asking us, as young people, who do we trust with the country? Who do we trust with our footballers? Who do we trust with our economy? Who do we trust with running our country safely? Lastly, the only way we can be able to stand as Azimio guys is to make sure that all of us fans, all of us Azimio, go and vote for Martha and Baba. Our future is secure in their hands.
Thank you, Paul. Your time is out, really extended. Godwin?
I just want to say one thing. Whoever that is coming in, debt management should be the priority that anyone should consider. All these promises that these people are giving us, I don't know, we're going to create, I don't know how many jobs, yet the same were promised, but none came forth. I don't know, we are going to give you 6,000. We don't need handouts, we don't need that 6,000. All we need is give us an opportunity, give us an avenue for us to make our own money. We don't want to live on handouts where I'll be sitting like, yeah, you know, I'm unemployed, so someone is going to give me 6,000 at the end of the month. Make a conducive environment to carry business, reduce taxation, manage the debt, and everything's going to come to order. So whoever that is, and then the electorate, you have the power. And the only thing I like about the only thing I appreciate about the coming in of Wajakoya and Maura is to enable us to think outside the box and to explore other options, because the Kenyan electorate has been tuned to a way that you only have two options. If not this, so it's you to choose the lesser poison. Let's not have that mentality. Let's explore people who come with ideas. not just crowd pullers and narrative makers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Godwin. Wakili Majimbo, your parting shot on this conversation?
Thank you, Eli. On 9th, 8th this year, we go on the ballot. We go to elect. We have 4 candidates for the presidential ticket. We ought to elect one. I want to say that we have, in Kenya Kwanza, we have what we call the plan. And under the plan, we have identified a key area as our economy where we need to focus on in order to make sure that each and every Kenyan, the common mwananchi's life is uplifted. The Kenyan workforce is now in the order of 19 million people, and this is data that I accessed from the KNBS. And out of these 19 people, only 15% work in formal jobs. The rest, which is close to 85%, is in the informal sector. Under the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, we have identified the informal sector as an area of priority. And that is an area where we want to make sure that we invest a lot of resources. So I want to tell Kenyans that where we are right now, the economy we are on is the economy of trickle down, but we really need a paradigm shift. So let us assess our candidates' manifesto so that when we get to the ballot on 9th, 8th, 2022, we make an informed decisions. Over and above all, I want to make a rallying call for peaceful elections. We remain Kenyans. We all remain brothers. There'll be no need for fighting. There'll be no need for violence.
Thank you so much, Wakili Majimbo. Let's have you, MK, and finally, the African man.
Yes, I would like to just say that after analyzing all this together, even with what we will be doing the coming Thursdays, eventually we will have a president. That is the reality. That we may critique, we may find fault in the manifestos, but eventually we will have a president, whether we want it or not, whether we abstain from voting, whether we vote, whoever we will vote. Now, the thing is, we need somebody who is better than the others. Some of us will talk of we don't go for the lesser evil. We rather not go at all. But now there will be, other than even the presidential candidates, we will be having other candidates, even to our audience. We will be having other candidates down there. Their manifestos, even if it is an MCA, they will affect us. We need to examine them. We need to look at what are they saying? What are they likely to do, not to do? Are they just taking advantage of us? Now, when we are attending those rallies, are we attending those rallies because we want to listen to them, ask them questions, even if it is not practical in the rallies, but at least once in a while there is somebody who raise an issue, and once a candidate to respond to, we will be having debates, gubernatorial debates for the governor's seat. We will be having presidential other debates. Are there avenues to ask questions? Because when we raise the points here, we need the points to be actually to reach the candidates. We are just not discussing them here and that is it. That's how we are sharing with the audience. So somebody needs to ask the difficult questions, and somebody sometimes, if it is not necessary, don't turn up for the rallies. It is actually not necessary to turn up for a rally on a working day. It is enslavement, political enslavement. You will say you are going to listen to your candidate, but then what are you doing for yourself? Because at the end of the day, what have you gained? You have gone there, cheered. Maybe the voice is gone and you left that place with maybe 100 or nothing. But then what are we trying to tell them? That we are always available? Let us think about our political decisions wisely.
Thank you so much, MK. Let's think about our political decisions wisely. Talking of wiseness and coffee shop wisdom, let's have the African man.
Yes, thank you very much. I will share you my last coffee shop wisdom. First of all, I see people are actually campaigning for their people. I thought it was just discussing ideas the president we want. First of all, I wish all of you success with the elections and everything will not be there. But this is the reality, I'll tell you. There is now a wave of change. And this wave of change is not only in Kenya. What you have to realize is, if we don't accept the change will change us. One example is this. If we don't accept to think out of the box, try other things new, explore new methods, we will end up being slaves again. If you refuse some of the ideas of trying snake farming and everything, you will end up eating the dogs, because the politicians will eat everything. You will end up with the Chinese eating those very dogs and those very hyenas you don't want to eat. Please accept the change, try marijuana farming, try snake farming, and all those things. Let us think out of the box and we accept change. Finally, all these other people, Akina Raila, Ruto, Uhuru, they have been the same people, doing the same things, saying the same lies, and we are here listening to them and even coming up with plans. My people, we accept change or change will change us. That's what I can tell you.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming. And the change of tone that we are having tonight is immense. I can tell people are not as happy as we should have ended this conversation. But then again, we live to fight another day and give our opinions the next day. Thank you so much, Paul Ramsey, for coming, Ramses, rather, for coming on board tonight. Wakili Majimbo, MK, Ronald, African Man, and of course, Godwin Segero. Let's see what we're going to do next week. We will be discussing inclusivity, integrity, and leadership. How about that? Because next week, we must question and answer those questions with the president we want. What kind of president are you looking for? Find out next week on behalf of everybody that made this show a success, including Blue Radio, who is streaming us all the way from Mombasa, Kenya to the world online. You can tune in with www.blueradio.co.ke, of course, /Gelitix Media if you want to. And find to listen to this conversation every single Thursday from 9:30 p.m. East African time. Of course, we have African Radio Africa EU by African Man. And, all the wakilis that are here, at least I've learned a few or two things from the Constitution and what it says about some things, which we will be learning as we proceed on with this conversation. Thank you so much, the cheering squad in the comment section that has been keeping us company. We appreciate you. Asanteni sana. Nimeona Eugene amesema, yani we are corrupt hadi in heaven, tutacheza kama sisi Kenyans, surely. I hope Paul Ramses will be praying for us, so that we can be sons of God like him. Until next week, my name is Likuyani Eli, and on behalf of the team, do have yourself a great, great Thursday night. See you when you see us next week, right here on Arts in Hearts. Good night.